be missed, he would live on forever. You know.
Yep, definitely. Uh, yeah, he would definitely be missed. And I've also, our prayers need to go out. I've mentioned the road to the Apollo, and so I want all of our listeners to know our prayers definitely go out to Captain Newborn. His brother was coming to visit his family, had a stroke. It does not look like he's going to make it. He's actually on life support, and the family is trying to make some very difficult decisions and things of that nature. But, I know that his captain's heart is very heavy because that's his only brother. He has a sister that has already passed on, and I think he has two other sisters. So it's a total of five of them. So this would be the second one to pass if they have to do that. So our hearts definitely go out to Captain Newborn and his family in these very difficult times. But I also understand what he's saying. They don't want to make the rush to judgment because one never knows what kind of miracles God may pull off, and also one never knows what kind of things may happen in people's lives. And also there is that whole controversy of whether people in the medical profession don't sometimes rush you in order to do things so they can get those organs and body parts that they make their money off of and things of that nature. So I can definitely understand the family being torn and the family wanting to make sure that it's the absolute last resort before they make that call.
Yeah, you have to. And you said he had a stroke, correct?
That is correct.
And a lot of times, you're right. When I don't know what they are thinking. Sometimes they're like, well, we want to do this, and then they get creative, and we want to try this, and try this medication, or try this, and sometimes it's on point, and sometimes it's too late. So, but then again, like you said, you never know what God has in store for, that person. I speak as a 3-time stroke survivor. So, I've, fortunately for me, I did not go the opposite way, but it's still, for family members who want to help and there's nothing you can do, that has got to be the most desolate feeling because it's like, well, what do we do? Well, you don't do anything. And then you say, you know what, you ask the doctors and they're like, well, we're not sure, but we're going to try this and we want to try that. Well, you know what? Can you try what works? But then again, you don't know what works. So you're stuck, and you can only leave it to the Most High to decide. If He decides it's time for you to come home, then you come home, But other than that, you just kind of hope that, and there have been people who, doctors don't know everything, I know some of them would like to, but you never know. He may come out of this and have a story to tell along with it. So, it's real tricky. You can't say yes. You can't say no. Some people will say doctors don't know a damn thing. Some people will say the doctor knows everything. But the only thing you can do is whatever his will is, that what'll be done.
Yep.
And it may hurt.
I just got word from.
But yeah.
I just got word from Josh that he's back online. So hopefully the static monsters are gone, and we'll see if we can actually finish this conversation and everything. But I did get a notice from Josh that he is back online. So let's see if we can't put him back in.
Okay,
I'm here, bro.
There you go.
I'm here.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes,
He's
sir. Welcome back.
And let's static. We like that.
Hey.
Yes.
So what's something's going on
man.
with the static monsters? Those things happen. That's the life of live radio and live just performances in general. You know that from having done shows. I'm sure there are times that you sat there going like, I don't know what happened. But
man, many times, brother, many times. Sometimes overseas where me and the sound man don't speak the same language, so it's really challenging. So I've been there, brother. I've been there.
I know that's right. Now, you were saying before the static monsters got us, we were talking about how there are some people that feel that the city council is already progressive and that you may wind up disrupting what is already a progressive voice out there and wondering why you wouldn't run to a later time when there are some other people that may not be as, say, progressive or as liberal. And you were answering that question, and that's when static villains decided to not have you answer the question. So we'll continue with the question and pick up where we left off.
Sure. Yeah, I call back in because I want to make sure I finish that point. I only have a few minutes now, but I want to make sure I address it because you're right. Like I said before, you got your ear to the streets. Everyone's asking that. A couple points. So we do have, as I mentioned before, we have a progressive city. Durham is a progressive place. We are fortunate that we have, a general consciousness in our city that is focused on things like equity and inclusion and affordability and access to health care and access to resources and, generally promoting a high quality of life. So we are fortunate to live in a progressive city, specifically in the South and in these United States. But I would challenge whether or not the council is actually progressive. Well, no, let me pause. Our council is certainly progressive. My challenge is how practical the ideas that happen in council are in terms of getting things done. Our communities for far too long have sat back and had to listen to ideological debate or data points about one thing or another or philosophy or someone's theory on how to govern our community. And a lot of it is steeped in progressivism, but I would challenge how progressive it truly is if we're not able to actually solve the problems of everyday human beings in Durham. If you were to look at, Mark, if you were to go on the map of the United States and point out the most progressive cities, like if you were to just guess, give me a city in the United States is very progressive available. Which ones would you point at? Just give me
probably Durham, probably Atlanta, maybe some of the ones in California like LA and San Francisco.
Yeah. All right. I'm glad you said those because those are the ones I would say as well. San Francisco is probably the banner or poster child for progressive governments, right?
Right.
San Francisco has a worse affordability crisis and worse homelessness crisis and worse poverty issues. Their poverty issues far exceed most countries and most cities in the United States. And so what I'm referencing is progressive governments, or what we would assume to be progressive governments, don't always function from a pragmatic standpoint. So I align with most of the progressive ideals, which is funny when people call me a disruptor, because I'm certainly not a disruptor in terms of I'm certainly not right-leaning, right? So you don't have to listen to much of my music to know where my politics lie on the spectrum. But what I believe in is actual tangible, practical solutions for the people of Durham, right? I'm not interested in arguing over who's left enough, who's leaning far left enough, who's read enough political theory to understand one highly progressive topic or another. I'm interested in real solutions for Durham. And the issues that we're facing right now are an affordability crisis that if we don't address it with a cohesive economic strategy, we're going to find ourselves repeating the mistakes of our past and affordable housing plans of the past. That if you've ever had a family member like I have, many of my family members who live in affordable or public housing perpetually for generations, then you know that was a failed policy. Affordable housing policies from the federal level and state level have failed historically because they lack proper perspective and a pragmatic approach and a holistic economic development strategy. So I'm certainly progressive, and I align with most of the things, most of the ideals of our council. I just would like to see us move beyond ideals and into practice. And I think that's where the rub is, and that's why I'm running now, because the people on the ticket that I'm running, that I'm opposing, that I feel are sort of steeped in this ideology and lack a little bit of a pragmatic approach.
I can definitely see that kind of argument and everything. Now, the other thing, I know you got to get off after a short period and everything, but the one question I would want to hear your perspective on is, do you think that we're doing enough in terms of making sure that our minority business people are getting enough of the pieces of pie in downtown? I mean, I just came to an event yesterday where I saw Carl Webb. He actually invited me to do a podcast at Provident. I think it's 1898, if I remember the number right and everything. But,
that's right.
And definitely want him on that to do this show and everything. He actually invited us to do it live. Maybe I'll have you come on that one as well. But
yep.
But I know he's one. But there's all this growth and development. We've got the people that are unscripted, the people at 21C. They're not necessarily minority colors and everything. And I do know that was one of the complaints, even when Mr. Brown, Mr. Shue, a lot of people know him as was in downtown before downtown was jumping like it is now. He was telling a lot of young people at that time, they were probably, I'm in my 50s now, so they might have been in their 30s and 40s at the time, you need to jump on bandwagon and try to get a piece of the pie. A lot of us did not listen to him, much to our regret. So I just wondered, do you think that is still going on, that enough of us are not listening, or are we getting our piece of the pie? I do know that the Black Wall Street, the Black August in the Park is definitely encouraging black business leaders, and there are a lot of them that are doing great innovative things like Spoke Up and things of that nature. But do you feel that we're doing enough, or can we do more?
Well, that's obviously a relevant question for me. As I don't know if you know or not, but Carl and I are partners on the Provident 1898 project, so I'm a part owner in that space. And one of the reasons why I was excited about it when Carl brought me the idea and asked me to be a part of it was because I do see a huge gap in people of color, black folks in particular, participating in the economy in Durham and being able to benefit from it, benefit from the economy and from a business ownership perspective. And Provident 1898 is a tangible way to make that happen. But if you ask me if we're doing enough in the city, absolutely not. There are I was in Los Angeles a couple of weeks ago speaking to some elders, some older black activists in L.A., and one of the things that one of the older women said to me was, white people get financing and black people get programs. And it really stuck with me because she's right? We get a program, some sort of minority certification or some sort of supplier diversity program, but we don't get financing for our project. So if you were to ask me, what public financing we got for Provident 1898, you could probably guess what the answer is for that. But how are we as a community incentivizing and financing Black and Latinx and minority-owned businesses? We're not. We're doing it in a very minimal way. You get what you incentivize. My economic strategy says that clearly. You get what you incentivize. Our community has some beautiful amenities that were incentivized by public dollars, things like the DPAC, things like One City Center, that we love, and they're beautiful, and they're gorgeous. And they've made our city a great place and more attractive to tourism. But now it's time for us to start to incentivize projects that work for all of Durham, and specifically underserved and minority businesses. We got to put our money where our mouth is as a community. And enough of the talk about programs, and enough of the talk about some sort of mentorship or those things are important. But we need to put the money where our mouth is, and I think as a city we're not doing a great job of that. And the proof is in the pudding, as they say. You saw the study. I think 4% of businesses downtown are black-owned. In a city that's 40+% black, that should be alarming to us. And we should all be pointing the fingers at our elected officials and say, hey, what are we doing about this? And I don't think enough is being said about that.
And we also don't seem to be doing enough to encourage our folks in terms of our education. I mean, we've got like black charter schools, we've got definitely North Carolina Central, and even organizations like K-Ti and things of that nature, and Spirit House. And I don't know that we're giving them enough support either. So it seems like we're not even supporting the organizations that are supposed to be our crown jewels in terms of actually giving them the kind of support that they need. Like if you were part of that amazing, I was telling Dean before you got on the call, and even before Zainab got on, that was just an amazing event. I mean, we had youth of and hip-hop artists of all ages. I think the oldest one might be close to my age because I can't forget his name. It began with a J, but I know he definitely was in that 50 age range. And then there were people down to like the blackface folks who were like teenagers.
That's right. Yeah, it was beautiful, man. It was one of the most. I was obviously in tears during my piece, but I would have been in tears regardless, just because it was that beautiful, man. There's so many creatives of all different generations doing what we did, and we don't invest enough in the creative arts in our city. We have thrived in spite of lack of investment in creativity, lack of investment in educational opportunities. I will say that there are people. I should say for sure, there are people, both elected officials, both activists, community organizers. There are people in those spaces doing a tremendous job in advocating for the most marginalized in our community. I'd be remiss if I don't point out the fact that there are people doing good work and encouraging all the things that we just talked about. I think it's just time to apply the economics to it, right? So let's start talking about the money, right, for our institutions. Let's start talking about the money for our businesses. Let's start talking about the money for the arts. Let's fund Hayti more. Let's figure out ways to fund